Unless you play a lot of Minecraft, have a background in art, or you're just naturally gifted, terraforming is probably something you struggle with. But I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be as difficult as it might seem at first. For the longest time, whenever I would tackle a custom terrain project, I found it to be the most excruciating process ever. Meticulously placing down a whole bunch of different block variants, all serving as a tiny piece to the larger puzzle I was trying to put together. And in the end, when I'd spent hours on a relatively small piece of land, it just didn't quite look right. Then it would be the job of going around and making minor changes, switching out blocks, adding some extras in, changing a slab to a stair, just ever so slightly tweaking the terrain, and it still wouldn't look right. If I wasn't already, now I would be getting frustrated, which is no fun. Now, there is no problem in terraforming with this level of detail in Minecraft. If that's what you enjoy doing, then that is great. Occasionally, I do too. But the average player isn't going to be able to place down thousands of blocks in order to create something that looks as though it could genuinely be a painting, nor do they have the time. The thing is though, terraforming the terrain around something you've built can completely change the look of it and creates this synergy that just makes the build feel as though it belongs. So it's definitely worth doing. Let's say you look around online for inspiration. You'll probably be met with lots of images that have an insane amount of detail and this hyper-realistic look to them, which, let's be honest, most of them are probably made with a program like World Painter, and that's not quite what we're going for here. Well, Minecraft terrain doesn't exactly have to look like that to look good. A couple of years ago when I started my new survival world, I decided that all of the custom terrain that I was going to do would match with the natural terrain. Basically, I was going to make my terrain look as though it could have generated like that originally when I made the world. I know that sounds a bit lackluster, but believe me, it makes the process so much easier and still has a similar effect that you get from doing it the typical way. I should say I don't do this for the terrain all over my base, just parts that I feel like would benefit from it. By terraforming this way, you don't have to worry about getting together all of the different blocks that you'll be using, along with their stair, slab and wall variants. You just need blocks that naturally generate, so stone and dirt for the most part, depending on which biome you're in of course. Not only does this make the actual building easier, but it saves you the problem of running out of inventory room. When it comes to actually placing these blocks down, it is still going to require a bit of practice. But the bonus is, if you try it and it looks a little bit funky, that's fine. Minecraft's terrain is a little bit funky sometimes, so it won't look out of place. And besides, you can always come back to tweak it once you've improved. As for how to even go about doing this, it's simple. Once you have an idea of how you want the terrain to look, whether it's a cliff, a mountain, or just a mostly flat grassland, you just need to copy the natural terrain. Again, this takes time to get used to building in this way, so be patient. But if you need a reference point for how a certain section of blocks should be placed down, for example, just look around, see how the game has done it already. If you're stuck with how the terrain should look as a whole and you just don't know where to begin, I'd suggest heading back onto Google to have a look for inspiration. Once you find an idea you like the look of, this can be from Minecraft, concept art, real life, anything, all you need to do is simplify it. Let's take this terrain for an example, which is actually from a video of mine where I gave some tips on how to terraform and landscape the quote-unquote normal way. I'm sure it contradicts a lot of what I'm saying here. But let's say we want to build some nice cliffs in our base, and we'll use the cliffs I built in this video as a reference. The main thing we want to look at is the shape. Try and ignore all of the details. We don't need the slabs and stairs, we don't need all of the texture added in with these other blocks, we don't need anything fancy. Well, we can see how these cliffs are shaped and do our best to create something that's similar, but stripped back to its bare bones. Remember, we're keeping things simple. This really is the type of thing you just get used to over time. Eventually, you'll be able to terraform without even thinking about it. Now, of course, I can't give you an exact tutorial on how to build the terrain block by block, but I can try to share my thoughts as I walk you through the process. So let's give that a go and make our own piece of custom terrain. So this is the water mill that I built in my survivor world, and over there it's got a little bit of custom terrain, but not a whole lot really. Over here in this world, we're hopefully going to be doing something just a lot more, really. Plus, I think a water mill is just a good example to do custom terrain around. We've got the water wheel, of course, that is going to need some sort of water running through it, so it just gives us a reason to actually incorporate the terrain into the build itself, via a stream or a river in this case. So currently our building is floating a couple of blocks off the ground. That's not a necessity, you don't have to do that with all of your builds. You can if you'd like, if you want to make the terrain totally around it from scratch, but it's not needed at all, so just try and ignore that. I will build around it eventually. But the first thing I like to do is just kind of take a look around at the terrain and what I want to emphasize, what I want to get rid of, and what I want to build from scratch. At the moment, I'm thinking I'm going to have to fill in some of these holes here because it's kind of ugly and just doesn't quite look right. Of course, we're going to have some sort of stream or river, which at the moment, I'm thinking we could kind of wind up around this hill here and have it coming from a source point up a little bit higher in the mountains. Just makes a bit more sense realistically. As we're building the river up, we could probably turn a couple of these into steeper cliffs, like this one right here. If we raise the whole terrain up, we can make this a sheer drop-off instead of the gradual slope that it is right now. And then we got a nice shore here beside the river that we could beachify a little bit more, basically placing some more sand in. And then I'll probably come up with some more ideas as we go, but that's kind of where I am at right now. So that's what I'd say for step one. Just take a step back, look at your surroundings, and get a rough idea of what you actually want to do. So first things first, we're going to fill in those ugly holes and just generally make things a bit neater around here. I've decided to leave this little bit here because I'm thinking we could possibly turn it into a small cove somehow, but we'll get to that later. As for everything else, it's covered up, mostly just holes and rounding out ugly bits of terrain. But what I will show you just over here is how I'd go about covering up a hole like this. It's kind of out of the way, so we probably don't need to worry about it too much, but I will anyway. So what I kind of imagine is as though the terrain was always there and for whatever reason, someone's just come along and punched this thing. So you can kind of see where the terrain would meet up, and this is actually a pretty simple one. For the most part, it's just kind of going to be a flat surface on this Y level. But it does drop down here a little bit. So let's go from this block right here. We can kind of bring it all the way over. My tick speed is quite high up, by the way. That's why it's turning into grass so quick. But then I'll just come along and I'll link it up to this block, trying to make a semi-natural line like this. Then from up here, I can just go ahead and fill all of this in. So there's one portion of it done. And then obviously we'll drop down a little bit here. Maybe just plop an extra block there and there too. And then I can go along and fill all of this in. And we're left with this, which honestly looks very Minecrafty. I'm just going to make a couple of tweaks here just to make it look slightly better. Open up this a little bit and get rid of these sort of things. This is something I'm not that big a fan of with Minecraft's natural terrain, is when you just have a single block in or out. I'm not a big fan of it. So I try and just get rid of those and round them out a little bit more. The same goes with this sort of thing. When you have a really harsh 90-degree edge, just get rid of a couple of blocks there and smooth it out a little bit. So at this point, we've got a nice, fairly blank canvas to work on. The next thing I'm going to tackle is one of the biggest features, which in this case is going to be the stream, ending up over here, starting up in the mountain. So pretty much working on this whole bit of terrain. Now, for the most part, all of this is going downwards. Gravity is going to take the water and flow it directly down. So we won't have to do much work really, other than just shaping the terrain to allow the water to do that. Other than over here, where we have this dip in the land. The water is going to start here, go down, 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 down. It can't really get back up unless we take a really wide route, but I think this would be a good opportunity to show you how I would go about bridging these two bits of land together, doing some custom terrain. So I'm essentially using a similar method as to what we did for filling in the hole just behind this area, drawing lines across from one side to the other, filling each section in, and just trying to build upon it from there. Of course, as we place these blocks, we just want to be looking around at the terrain and seeing if we can match it with our surroundings. As I mentioned earlier, this is something you kind of just get used to over time, so don't expect it to look perfect on the first try. Do you see anything off with this terrain? I'll give you a clue. It's not the sheep, but look at the egg. Do you see the egg? See what's wrong with it? Well, starting at the egg, we have a perfect diagonal line downwards. That is not intentional, and I feel like once you notice it, you just can't unsee it. It's way too uniform, way too straight, and just really stands out amongst everything else. So if you ever get something like this, all you got to do is, just place a couple of blocks. Don't even think too much about it. Just kind of bring the terrain out along and break away from the symmetry that we've accidentally made, because it is not very normal looking with the terrain. See, now that looks a little bit weird to me, so I just kind of tweak that, and there we go. Much better. Gets rid of that perfect line that we had, which can happen quite a lot, not only in just the regular Minecraft terrain. I mean, look along, there are a lot of straight diagonals, but if we're making the terrain from scratch, it is the type of thing that I try to avoid. Another thing I will mention is when I first started doing this sort of custom terrain, I all the time made it super flat like this. I just kind of had like rolling hills, and every single level would be just this open flat patch of grass. It would always be standable, if you know what I mean. So each level I could stand on. You don't necessarily have to do that. Take down here, for example, we got a little bit of a sheer drop off. Can't stand on this level, there's no blocks. That's fine. Look at the Minecraft terrain. That happens quite a lot. You don't have to have this super smoothed out rolling hills. You can, there's no reason why you can't, but you don't have to. Plus, it'll save you quite a bit of time, because that's basically a whole Y level that you don't really have to build. Now we have the path our water should be able to take. There's a couple of sections we'll most likely have to tweak. Obviously, water only flows 8 blocks in Minecraft, so it might be a bit of a stretch to get from here to here before it drops down and continues to flow. So there's probably a little bit of tweaking left to do, but I think the next thing is to carve out where our water is gonna go. So I'm thinking we just do a single water source kind of up in the hill here. You can imagine it coming from a source way up in the mountain. You don't need to build a whole lake on top of the earth if you don't want to. This is usually what I go for. I just dig a little bit into the mountain and pop a water bucket back there, and it looks just as good. But I'm thinking from this point, we can kind of go down this little bit of terrain we built. Obviously, we are going to have quite a bit of work to do down here because it's completely hollow. But then we can go all the way down here, and we'll probably have to extend the terrain out a little bit. Or we could even have like a pond halfway through. That could be pretty cool. Make our life a little bit easier too. And then we continue on down this way and get to our watermill over here. So let's see if we can do something with that. When we do this, we're probably going to have to continuously place and get rid of our water bucket. So if we just pop it down to begin with, it's just going to flow off to the side here, which isn't really ideal, but it can give you an idea of the path that it's going to take. So we can go ahead and just, get rid of it now, block it off like that. And then we can see it took a path down here. Obviously, we don't want that. So we kind of want to just force its hand to take this route instead. Don't worry too much about how this looks at the moment. Just focus on the path of the water. And then, we can terraform around it afterwards and make it look pretty once we got our water actually in place. So place it down, see where the water goes, and then alter it after that. So you can see we're no longer flowing down here, but I'm willing to bet we're going to go down here instead. So it's a gradual process, can take a little bit of time, but your river also doesn't necessarily have to be quite as long as mine is. I've chosen to place this thing quite far away. So if you are building a river and you want to tweak your water a little bit once it's already in place, that's fine. You can definitely do that. Whether you want to expand it a little bit, you can place a couple of extra blocks and bring the water out a little bit more. And you can also take it back in. So is this going to work? Maybe we can block off that little bit of water. There we go. Or maybe we don't want this one over here, just a single water source. You can just go along and place and break a couple of blocks in front of it. Maybe this over here, if we can just close that in and make it not quite as much of an overflow. Or maybe we do want an overflow, just place the block back down. You see how you can kind of just alter it ever so slightly, obviously once it's already in place, because if you were to get rid of the water source and place it back down, it would kind of undo all of the work you've just done there. Another thing I like to do with my rivers is to incorporate a little bit of stone. Of course, in real life, when water is falling, it is washing away the earth very gradually over time, or in this case, if we got dirt, that's going to wash it away pretty quickly. Dirt isn't really going to stick around where water is pushing it. So realistically, most of this would probably be stone or some other harder block, but since we're going for Minecraft realism, we're just going to use stone, make things nice and simple. So I'll just give you a little example at the top here, and pretty much any block that's touching water or fully engulfed by water, I'm going to switch it out to stone. So that's all of the blocks underneath it, and then on the side here as well. And we'll see how that's looking afterwards and possibly expand it out again. I tried replacing all of the water touching blocks with stone and realized I don't think it quite works on this scale. If you had something a bit smaller, maybe you could pull it off. Not as many blocks to place down. But with a river or stream of this size, I think we need more blocks than just kind of one wide going all the way down. So instead we're branching out by a handful of blocks on both sides, kind of slowly transitioning into the dirt and just trying to make it look as though over time this river has brushed away all of the dirt and worn through the earth, giving it this stony look. I was going to leave the bit of still water we had here as mostly grass and dirt, but I don't think it's quite big enough to just be left as it is. It looks like a chunk is missing, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in as well. Okay, so I'm well aware that I said earlier in the video that what I'm trying to do with this sort of thing is recreate the Minecraft terrain and make it look as though it belongs. I'm well aware this doesn't really match with that. This stands out like a sore thumb amongst everything else, but the main thing I'm on about with this specific type of terraforming is the shape of the terrain. I'm not doing anything with slabs or stairs or texture. If you changed all this out to dirt and got rid of the water, it would just look like Minecraft. So it's to simplify things, really. It doesn't matter if it stands out, that's a good thing. But it's just to make your life easier and actually doable without having to spend hundreds of hours practicing terraforming with minute details. I do need to just complete the rest of the river, so let's put a plug on that for now, stop the water flowing, make things a bit cleaner. And I think we're actually going to have to finish this terrain first of all. It can't be floating to do this part because our water wheel needs to be touching the water. So we got to make some terrain for our house to sit on. And I think instead of just having it perched up on a small hill on its own, I think we'll try connect it to this terrain over here. So this Y level is sitting at the same Y level as over here. So what I'm going to do, again with those lines trying to connect the invisible terrain together, we're just going to go over like this, trying to create a fairly natural shape, add some curvature, curve back in a little bit, get something a little bit funky, that's fine. And then we can just connect up like this. Yeah, okay, that's a pretty good shape. And then for the backside round here, we've actually got some terrain a bit nearer, so we can just connect it up to this side instead of going all the way over there. Then we can just add in the third line to complete our terrain, and we're going to end up with a bit of an open patch just beside the house, but that gives us the opportunity to add in like a small pond or something here maybe? I'm not sure, we'll come back to that later again. There we go, all filled in, the house is no longer floating, and the river has a path through the wheel. We are going to have to do something a little bit different with this one because we're working on such a low Y level, we don't have much room to go down. So we are, I think, going to actually have to turn this all into solid water here. Plus, when we get to this point, we're going to go too deep because obviously we want the wheel to be submerged and we can need to waterlog these blocks anyway. So another reason why it kind of has to be solid water. There we go. I think we got it all. Yeah, alright, so it's still flowing at the end here, so it kind of looks like it continues that whole way around. But if we just tweak a little bit at the end here, just try and push the water out slightly, cover a little bit more of this stone, there we go. Lovely! Oh, that's looking good. So this is looking pretty good, but that's only from one angle. We still got quite a bit more left unfinished. So with the biggest part all done, I think now is a good time to take another step back and just kind of see where we're sitting. I still want to do that cove, still gonna turn this into a bit of a beach, but now we have this whole section where I do think we would benefit from just a small garden pond, probably not gonna stonify it like we have here, just keep it all grass and dirt. And I was thinking whilst I was building the river, it would be cool to have some sort of bridge going over to this island that's in the middle of the river, or lake, I should say. And instead of building a man-made bridge, we're going to do some terrain maybe, make like a bit of an arch. Then if we ever were to ride a boat through here, that could be pretty cool. And at the moment, the only other thing I'm thinking is I want to exaggerate the peak of that mountain a little bit. So when we do have that lovely point of view, which is probably the thumbnail of this video, we got a big pointy mountain in the distance. But I think the next thing I'm going to work on are the cliffs here, which have got substantially smaller because I had to flatten the terrain a little bit. So these are going to be not very steep cliffs, but I would like to just emphasize them a little bit more. So I'm just going to bring the terrain out a tiny bit, maybe even heighten it up ever so slightly if I can. I might do it on this side actually, kind of bring the terrain up a little bit. And then as you do that, if you make an alteration like that, you kind of have to branch it all the way out. It has a bit of a ripple effect. So if you go up, you got to go up everywhere. You can't just do it on this really small section. This whole line, say we went up again, now we're going to have to go even further over. And then you got the problem at the front, but it's fine because you can just build around it. You can continuously build. Obviously, we didn't want to encroach too much on our cove, so we'll maybe curve around a little bit this way. Yeah, okay, this should work. Let's see what we can whip up. I got a little bit carried away. The cliffs kind of overlapped with the cove, so I thought I'd better do that too, since it's kind of now one in the same, and then the cove overlapped with the beach, so I did that as well. So now we've got a cliff, cove, and beach. Something I think this technique struggles with a little bit is the transitioning out of using the blocks. We're not using many of them, but when we stop using them and go from one to the other, it's a bit of a harsh cutoff here. Like for the beach, we're just going from sand to grass. We can't use sandstone, coarse dirt, rooted dirt, all of the other blocks that might make the transition a little more gradual on the eyes, not quite as bold. It definitely has its advantages doing it the other way, but if you look around at Minecraft's terrain, like look at this gravel patch. That's just a patch of gravel and then it stops. Same with this sand, same with basically anything. Minecraft doesn't really transition out of blocks like you would usually if you were being super detailed with your terraforming. So basically what I'm saying is don't worry too much if it looks like it suddenly just stops. So does the rest of the world. A little tip if you want to do sandy beaches like this is to make sure you get the first couple of blocks in the water itself. That cutoff line is a little bit harsh. You could definitely do with softening that ever so slightly. So I'm just trying to work my way through this dirt patch here and make most of the blocks in the water right by the shoreline here sand. So it just matches a little bit better. Yeah, okay, that looks much more beachy. I think the next thing I want to tackle is our mountain peak up there. Ever since I mentioned that idea, I just want to go ahead and make this pointy. So we're going to fly on up here. And something I will say is, I know you're probably going to be doing this in survival. It takes a lot longer than I'm doing here. I'm well aware. You don't need to tell me how I'm currently cheating by doing it in creative mode. I'm doing it for the sake of the video to make things nice and quick. Usually we do it in survival, but remember all the bonuses this method has. It would be 10 times as long and arduous doing it with all of the different slabs and stones and different variants. So keep that in mind. But yes, I know. I'm well aware I'm in creative mode. I know some people are thinking it. So what I would do for this mountain peak right here is trying to imagine how high up it would go if it hadn't have just been lopped off at the side. So it's actually quite a steep point. So it's probably going to be going quite high. So what I'm going to do is actually just come to the middle here and pillar up until I reach what I think might be the highest point. This might be the type of thing where free cam would be helpful because then you can kind of hover in and out, but I reckon there or a couple of blocks higher might be good. After that, I'm going to make 4 points all around our central point here. As you can see, I've already started, and just try and shape out how I want this to go. So we're just kind of going up by a certain amount of blocks, and we're going in by 1. And obviously, depending on the scale of this thing, you might be doing more than 1 block inwards or even a lot smaller than what I've got here. But by doing that, we can kind of see the rough outline of how this is going to be looking. A lot of shaping is required for this. So yeah, we got our work cut out for us. What we can do now is fill in all of the 4 quarters that we've left open with our stone blocks. And what we're doing is just our very best to emulate the Minecraft terrain with all of these blocks we're placing down. There is no good way to explain how I'm doing this. As I keep saying, it's just the type of thing you get used to. So maybe a terraforming project of this size might be something you tackle once you got a little bit of experience under your belt. Yeah, that's looking pretty sweet, isn't it? Just adds something going on in the background of the build here. But something I will just chuck in quickly is maybe try this sort of stuff in creative mode first. You know, you don't have to go through all the awkward stepping stones of improving this type of style and trying to figure out how it works. Doing it in survival with limited resources and not being able to fly around like this, it is way easier in creative mode. So maybe just load up a test world like I have here and give some things a try. I'm pretty happy with how things are looking to the left of our water mill, but the right is definitely lacking. So we're going to go ahead and make that natural bridge, and the first step is to basically outline where it's going to go. We start with the original line of dirt going over, plotting the general path, and then you kind of just widen it out to get the rough shape you want, and you've got your outline, that's it. Then you can just go around and fill it in, doing it one line at a time, one segment at a time, however works best for you, but you're basically just trying to flesh out what you plotted out in the first place. I might have made it a little bit too low, actually. Gonna have to punch out a couple of blocks in the middle here so I can sail through without chopping my head off. But yeah, that's pretty good. Happy with that. I'm thinking the final thing will be our pond over here, a nice final finishing detail. The only thing I would like to change is, can you see this terrain? I think I've built this actually, so I can't really blame Minecraft for it, but it comes out all the way like this. It's a bit too much. I would bring this layer out a little bit just to kind of round things out, but instead I think it might look a little bit better if we kind of just carve out this bit here, get a good shape, and then I can delete the rest from existence. Okay, so for our pond, what I'm going to do to begin with is just kind of pick apart where I want to be the middle. So we don't want to go too close to our house. So I'm thinking the middle can be just kind of right here. And I forgot this is hollow, but that's fine. We can use that to our advantage. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go all the way to one side, then to the other. And this is just to get a rough size of how big we actually want this to go. Try not to go the same length in all directions. It's a bit too symmetrical for my liking. We're going to come in a little bit this way. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a really circular pond, which probably isn't what you're going for if you're going for natural looking terrain. But then we can kind of just bring these points together and just turn it into a bit of a circle. Again, trying to make sure you're breaking away from any symmetry that you're accidentally doing. It is really easy to fall into that. I'm just making it a little bit bigger. The first hole I cut out seemed slightly too small, so I'm just going around to all the edges, just punching away a few blocks, trying to avoid any awkwardness that I'm accidentally doing here. Yeah, that's a near enough circle shape, but not perfect. Then, assuming you wouldn't have hollowed terrain, would be the next layer. So you would punch out a smaller circle and get another layer downwards. Something kind of like this. Again, trying not to make it too perfectly circular. And then depending on how deep you want this thing, maybe we go another layer down. Perfect. Now you could just fill all layers of these up with water right to the top, even on the highest layer here. Or you could do something a little bit different. So instead of having this water filled up right to the very surface, we could do something a little bit like what we have going on over here with our small stoppage in the river, where it's just one block down from the surface. So if we get back over to our pond here, that does mean we're probably going to have to bring it out a little bit more, otherwise we're not going to have very much water. We can expand the sides out a little bit for all of the layers that we've got. And since we've lost a layer of water, we can add another one here in at the bottom and just make it a little bit deeper. And there we go. That is quite the impact we've had on the terrain. So much so that we've made it super thin over here. So what I would do is just expand this out slightly more so we don't just have a really thin line of dirt in between where our pond is and where the rest of the terrain is. Then we can fill our water in and we've got a lovely little pond, which is slightly submerged and I think is just a little bit more pleasing on the eye. It is pretty bland at the moment, and there is something we can actually do to counteract that just by placing in some sand maybe and a little bit of clay. You get clay patches in the Minecraft terrain, so it wouldn't hurt to maybe just have one of these in our pond, and then we'll just do a couple of sand patches as well underneath the water. There we go. That is a little bit better. Of course, we are still missing, some bone meal around with some tall grass, maybe some seagrass in there, some sugarcane, an extra couple of reeds, that sort of thing. But that kind of comes under landscaping as opposed to terraforming, which I guess I can briefly touch on here. So to my definition, at least in terms of Minecraft, terraforming is just things like altering the actual terrain, not really adding things like trees and grass in. That comes under landscaping, which is definitely something you can do. You don't need to go above and beyond with landscaping either. No need to build custom trees if you don't want to. I'm not a fan myself. You can just use regular Minecraft trees, plant a couple of saplings of those down. They don't look great as a standalone tree, but the rest of the trees in the world look like that, so they match pretty well with your surroundings. And what you can also do is just grab some bone meal or cut tall grass that you've got with shears and just place some of that on top of your custom terrain that you've built, because obviously that is terrain you've hand placed. There's probably not any grass, so it looks a little bit bold. So you can just place some of that in and it makes it less obvious on the bits that you've built yourself by hand. And then there's any small details you want to add in to certain sections of your terrain. But that really comes down to the minuscule types of landscaping, which isn't what this video is really about. But I did just want to mention it because it can make a build look a little bit better. So there we go, everybody. That is an easier way to terraform in Minecraft. I really hope this video has helped you out, even if it's just a little bit. Let me know if it has, or if I should have just stopped this video 4 minutes in. I'm not really sure how this last segment has come together, to be honest. It is difficult to explain and build as you go, let alone with something like terraforming, which really is not that easy to explain. But hopefully I did a semi-good job and you've got something out of this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would genuinely be really interested. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.